Good evening, and welcome along to a very special big show this evening. Why is it special? Well, because one of the best groups of the 1980s, Tapao, are back with a brand new single. It's called Guess Who's Sorry Now, and we're going to be chatting to Carol Decker in just a second. After this, a clip of the brand new single.
What can I tell you that is dignified? If you won't let me help to dry the tears you cried, 'cause you were never on my mind until you left me far behind. I should have known somehow. I should have known somehow. Live my life without a doubt until you turned me inside out. So guess who's sorry now?
Great new music from Tapao. That's called Guess Who's Sorry Now, and I'm pleased to say that Carol Decker joins us on the line. Carol, how are you?
I'm really, really well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So I can't believe, has it been a year already since we last had you on the big show?
Be wonderful. It was May 2020, wasn't it? That was our lockdown video.
Now, your kids were involved in that music video, weren't they?
They were. My kids, my daughter graduated last year. She's an animator, but both of my kids have done a BTEC in creative media production, which is radio, TV, film, editing, all that sort of, script writing, everything like that. And Ronnie Rogers, who's my co-writing partner in Tapao, he said, "Oh, we got the songs done," and he was obviously able to mix them. And all the file sharing, you can crack on with the mixing and the technical side of it. And he said, "Come on, make a video at home, put your kids to work. They know how to do it." So we did, and that was last year. Be wonderful. And this year for Guess Who's Sorry Now, my son has done a lyric video, which again, his great editing skills. And so the clues in the name, the lyrics, the star, so you just put it sounds a bit like karaoke. You have you can change the backgrounds, the fonts, and make the letters jump around and just sort of do the work kind of thing. So yeah, we've got that.
So tell us about Guess Who's Sorry Now. Was this recorded during lockdown?
Before. It was before, yeah. So we had, Ronnie and I got together sort of around about December 2019, and we had a writing session between ourselves and a couple of other guys that are in the band, and we had 3 tracks on the go. So there was Be Wonderful, Guess Who's Sorry Now, which I pretty much got finished, and then there's another one called Stupid Love Song that Ronnie and I keep arguing about. But it's finished, it's recorded, but we just can't agree on certain things in the mix. So we're going to get together and finish that one. So there'll be another new single out later. So yeah, but it was great. We've been quite productive, and then lockdown kind of put the kibosh on it a little bit.
So you and Ronnie are still working together today. You've been together for many years. I would imagine the relationship is still as good now as it was back in the 1980s.
He's more argumentative. I think I used to be able to sort of boss him around, but he's definitely sticking up for himself now. The grumpy old man stuff, and but I won't back down and he won't back down. And so we managed to compromise eventually, but I can feel really annoyed with him, and I'm sure he can with me as well. At least now he's in Wales and I'm here, we don't have to sort of carry the fight on into our private life. Yeah, bye, talk to you later. So.
Now, we've been playing the new song on the radio, and people keep saying to me when they hear the song, it sounds just like a Tapao record, which obviously means it sounds as fresh today as your music back in the 1980s. And there aren't too many people around who can do that these days, are there?
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we're quite good at producing our own stuff. Ron is the technical guy, and he just messes around getting all the right sounds and stuff. And I sort of go, no, yeah, that one. But that's producing, isn't it? That's all producer does. No, yeah, that one. But I think it's also a testament to how modern our old stuff still sounds. Because if you hear Heart and Soul on the radio, I still think the production sounds amazing. And we learned a lot from Roy Thomas Baker, and our amazing engineer at the time, Jerry Napier, and we've taken that with us. And Ron's a clever guy; he can do all the studio stuff, and I do credit myself with a good ear. I'm not really very technical, but I know when something sounds right, and you can just I'm sure if there's any songwriters out there with home studios now, you can access 100 drum kits, all these guitar amps. You don't even, it's awful really, because you don't need a band. Musicians out of work, but you can just sift through till you find the right sound. You can reference other people's songs and say, I really like the bass on that, I don't know, like Chic or The Weekend or someone like that, and go searching for something that sounds like that and make sure, you sound as contemporary as everybody else.
Now, you have a very unique voice, but which voices influenced you when you were growing up?
I was very influenced by my parents' record collection, and my dad loved a big voice. He loved big voices, so he would have Dinah Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, Dusty Springfield, Barbra Streisand, Shirley Bassey, really big. So I just thought whenever you sang, you had to sing really loud and really high, because I thought that was a good voice, because they were all these big diva voices.
Yeah.
So I've found my own style more now, and I think some of the old power recordings weren't even in the right key for me. Too high now, because I just thought, if I'm going to be as good as they are, I've got to be up there and that big, So I raised on voices like that, and obviously my dad loved jazz. He was a great piano player, so I do love, and classical music. So I love strings and drama and great piano, like you hear in China on Your Hand, and sax. Obviously there's lots of sax on 80s songs anyway, but my father had a very eclectic taste in music, and my mum too. My mum loved the quirkier characters, like she'd always pick up on someone like Leo Sayer or Boy George, people who looked wacky and were different. She really got off on sort of these crazy individuals, so I was very influenced by that as well. And then when I got older and had my own taste, I was quite the disco diva. I loved a lot of the late 70s disco stuff, like Tavares, Chic, Sister Sledge, and lots of Tamla as well. So again, very wide-ranging, very eclectic, but very melodic, melodic music. And I think Tapao is very melodic as well.
So you're still sounding great, you're still looking great as well. So tell me this, is there a regular kind of fitness regime that you go through every day?
I sleep hanging upside down in my wardrobe now, like a bat. Oh, that's sweet of you to say so. I've got a funny little face, without my makeup on. I can look quite gross, but I paint well. I don't know what it is. It's a funny thing, I don't know. I work out. I've got a bit of a gammy foot at the moment. I think I've got a little stress fracture from running too much. I work out, but then I will drink like a fish as well. But I just, it's pain and reward, isn't it? That's how I've always lived my life. Could probably use backing off the reward a little bit just lately, but like everybody else over COVID, people have been eating into their COVID fat suit, haven't they? I've been drinking my COVID fat suit on. So I did a big workout this morning. So hopefully, keeping it all in shape.
So what is your favourite wine then, red or white?
Depends on the time of year and the time of day. I've been all through the winter. It's been red, really good reds. I like French wine, love good Californian wine. There's a brand called Dark Horse that I'm really into at the moment. But then I love a great Chianti, or a good Rioja. I'm really enthusiastic about wine. And then in the summer, obviously, a nice rosé or a Prosecco or something like that. I've kind of gone off white wine. It gives me jip now.
Now, as well as the wine, are you into your food as well? Because you did do a Celebrity MasterChef, didn't you?
I did in 2018. I am into my food, and I've been married for 20 odd years to the most amazing chef. So, I'm used to good food, and I have it on tap here. There isn't anything that my husband Richard can't cook. And he coached me for Celebrity MasterChef as well, because I'm not a natural cook. I like good food. I've got a good palate. I know when something is really good. I know when it hasn't been done well, And obviously, over the course of the years in my job, traveling the world and going to great places, I've been privileged enough to experience great cuisine. But everything I did on MasterChef, I did really well until I messed up my cheesecake. I put too many blueberries in it, so it just kind of turned into like purple vomit. It booted me off the show, I think, in the quarterfinals. But all of the other stuff I cooked, they were raving about. All the judges were raving about it. But I can't remember how to cook any of it now. It just went off the hard drive straight away as soon as I didn't need to do it anymore.
I remember watching you on Celebrity MasterChef and thinking you really should do more telly. Would you like to do some more?
I would. It's a question of being asked, though, isn't it? You know, I think these days, I think we all tend to lose out to the reality TV stars now. They seem to scoop up, don't they? All the Love Island kids and the, can't even remember most of the programs, but they seem to be the ones that get all those sort of TV gigs now. I think we're the old guard, yeah. But hey, if anybody's watching, you know, I will work for wine. There you go.
And you actually did do some TV stuff back in your younger days, didn't you?
Yeah, I did TV presenting before I started singing properly. I did a couple of shows out of the now defunct Pebble Mill TV stations in Birmingham, because I grew up in the Midlands, so that was sort of my local station. And I presented a few things there at the Oxford Road show and stuff. And then in the 80s, I presented Going Live when poor Sarah Green and her husband Mike Smith had their helicopter crash. I stood in for them with Philip Schofield. And I've always done, just every now and again, I will get asked to do some telly, some radio. I did a bit of acting. And I dip in and out of things. And I like that because I get bored very easily. So I like to be able to duck and dive and go, oh, yeah, I'll do that for a couple of months. That sounds like fun. You know, so I don't like to, music's the only consistent thing I do because it pays the rent, frankly.
Yes.
I do like to dip in and out of, I can walk and talk at the same time. So I'm all right on the telly, yeah.
Now I'm going to take you back to the year 1987 because I was looking through some years of music the other day and I discovered that 1987 is probably the greatest year of music, and of course it's also the year that produced China in Your Hand and the Bridge of Spies album, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So it was just, you know, in terms of record sales, we've never matched it. It was fantastic. And China in Your Hand went to #1 for 5 weeks here in the UK, and at the same time Bridge of Spies was in the album charts #1 for 2 weeks out of those 5 weeks, and we kept George Harrison at #2 in the single slot and Paul McCartney at #2 in the album slot. So I was briefly bigger than the Beatles for 5 minutes.
Now tell me about the name T'Pau. That came from a Star Trek character, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. We couldn't decide on a name for the band. We had the first album in the can, all mixed and ready to rock and roll, and we hadn't named the band. And the record company said, "You're running out of time," you know. So we used to meet in our office in Soho, which was the Crown and Two Chairmen was our office, and everybody had put band names forward, and the rest of the band would go, "No, I'm not being in a band called that." And then one day I was back in the flat in Shrewsbury, messing about, doing a bit of housework. Telly was burgling away in the background, and it was the old TV series of Star Trek. And I wasn't even watching it. I was hearing it more than watching it, and this was going T'Pau, 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 this character. I thought, that's a great word, you know. And then I checked the credits, and it was spelled T''PAU, and it didn't really mean anything to me. I liked Star Trek, but I'm not a Trekkie. But I just thought, snappy, onomatopoeic, it's different, it's as stupid as any other band name, makes as much sense as any other band name. So put it to the band, and it was the one they hated the least, so we went with it.
So what other names were on the list then? What could T'Pau have been called?
I can't remember, it's a long time ago, but I know that for T'Pau, Ronnie and I, we had a production deal with Rockfield Studios, very famous studio, and we called ourselves Talking America, me and Ron, because Kingsley Ward, who owns Rockfield, he went, "You two, we're talking big, we're talking America."
Yeah.
And we said, "That sounds really good, let's call ourselves that." You know, so Ronnie and I were called Talking America for about 6 months.
And of course, you did go to America to record the Bridge of Spies album, didn't you?
Yeah, we went to, we were in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is a couple of hours out of Chicago, kind of between Chicago and Milwaukee sort of way. So that was great fun. But I was so excited. I'd never been to the States, and I'd always loved it on the telly and on the cop shows and the movies. And all their cities are so iconic, aren't they? I like those kind of the grand scale on which they seem to do things. And so went from Sleepy Shrewsbury, which is just fields and cows and barns and farms, land at Chicago O'Hare, and I'm just like the studio pick us up in a shuttle bus, and we drive from the airport and we go past certain parts of the city and stuff like that, and gradually the city fades into the background, and all of a sudden I'm in Milwaukee and I'm surrounded by cows and fields. So because the record company kept referring to the studio being in Chicago, and it wasn't. It was about 2.5 hours away from Chicago in Wisconsin, which is farmland. So I ended up back in farmland. But it's probably just as well, because if we'd have been in Chicago, we wouldn't have got any work done. The few times we went into to Chicago on a night off, we just got completely trashed. So we'd have done that every night if we'd have been recording in the city, So.
You mentioned Roy Thomas Baker there. He's a pretty big name, isn't he? Because he was involved in the Queen Bohemian Rhapsody record, wasn't he?
Yeah, which was recorded at Rockfield. So there you go. It's synchronicity. Yeah, we got, once we had our deal, you put across the desks of many great producers, and it came down to Nile Rodgers, who Ronnie. I didn't speak to Nile. Ronnie spoke to him on the phone, and I was a massive Chic fan, so that would have been a completely different direction, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But where Roy fitted was, Ronnie was a huge Queen fan, massive Queen fan, so he was really enthusiastic. And where it worked for me was Roy had just had a big hit with that Cars album, with the big hit Drive. Who's gonna take you home? So he just had a massive hit with that album. So it was perfect. It had all the high drama of Queen for Ron, a new and contemporary album that had just been a hit for me. So Roy was the perfect choice, and he's a fantastic character. He's larger than life. He was then physically larger than he should have been. And he used to produce the album from behind a rack of lamb. I remember that. Well, the studio was part of a big hotel complex. And so we would order our dinner in, and Roy would just have, like a rack of lamb, they have those little chef hats on the lamb chops, don't they? He'd be like waving his knife at us and taking another hat off a lamb chop and all the rest of it. That's a long time ago. I think he's had to get all healthy in his older age. And we learned a lot from him, just to have fun, take risks. He would do crazy things in the studio. We must have had 150 mics on the drum kit, and he would just want to hear the drum. There'd be like 4 mics on the snare, all with slightly different not frequencies, treble, bass, whatever the thing is, having a senior moment. And he'd say, I want to hear it through that mic, that mic, that mic, that mic, that mic. Which is what me and Ronnie do now. When you get all the software for drums, you've got a jazz kit, a rock kit, a 12-inch tom, a 14-inch tom, but you do it now with buttons. Roy used to do, we have all different mics for all different sounds. And he would have about 4 different sizes of speakers. So he'd have the big ones mounted on the wall, then the mid-range, and then he used to have he had a tiny transistor wired up, so we could see what it sounded like it was coming out of somebody's car radio and stuff like that.
One of the songs that I love on the Bridge of Spies album is Monkey House. Do you still do that in your set?
Do you know what? We haven't done it in a year because Ronnie got fed up with it. So, but it has been played for the better part of 30 years, and then Ronnie just got a bit fed up with it. But I might bring it back into the set, I think, when we go back on the road soon. Well, the guitar that opens that up, that was Roy mucking about that, very compressed, that it's very, very compressed. I think that came through, it got recorded and pushed through pig nose speakers, so that was a Roy experiment. And it's a track about the 1930s actress Frances Farmer, who her mother had her lobotomized because she was I think she had schizophrenia, she had substance abuse problems, and was a bit of a wild card. And the studios used to like to keep all their artists, didn't they, under wraps, and you mustn't let any scandal escape, and so she was lobotomized without any say in the matter, which left her in a sort of vegetative state. So that's what Monkey House was about. Cheerful.
Back then, you must have been doing lots of reading to find out stories like that, because of course China in Your Hand is also inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yeah, I was an avid reader, and would always pick up on an unusual story, you know. But I mean, What Happened to Francis Farmer? More than that, I love a good documentary. I sort of that's I think I might have been reading it as well as watching it on the telly. And with the Frankenstein thing, I watched a documentary on Mary Shelley writing the book, so I was more interested in that. And she was 19 years old and basically had this huge hit with a pulp fiction novel. And obviously she was married to Percy Bysshe Shelley, and they were big pals of Byron and all the intellectual elite. And there was a lot of snobbery and jealousy when she just had this huge hit. So I was very interested in that story, because even that was a be careful what you wish for story, like the story of Frankenstein, because, you know, the book caused lots of fractures in their set.
So what about today? What kind of documentaries are you currently watching on Netflix and streaming platforms like that?
Porn, morning, night. Just I'm so bored, you know. What have I been watching? Not so many documentaries. My husband's into that at the moment. Anything with Nazis in. Every time I go into a room, which is watching the war. Again, you know. I've been more. I love good dramas like Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm on episode 2 of that at the moment.
It's fantastic. The flight attendant is amazing. And then I've gone. Oh, what else? I've had. This is going to sound completely left of centre. I've gone on a Midsummer Murders Fest.
Right. Okay.
I've never really watched it before, but I wanted some kind of what I call cozy blanket TV. You know, when you, with everything that's been going on and trying to still the chatter in your head.
And the thing that gets me about that show is it's been going for so many years now. I'm surprised there's anybody left in the village.
Exactly. It's like Miss Marple and Morse.
Yes.
That many people died in your village, you'd move, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
So I kind of watched that with a little bit of irony. And the other stuff I've been watching, I've been again just trying to comfort myself. So watching things like Ghostbusters, Trading Places, Breakfast Club, Desperately Seeking Susan, Wall Street, all the great 80s movies, you know.
And I was thinking the other day about some of the big characters who were around in the 1980s. Thinking about people like Jim Steinman, of course, sadly passed away last week. You don't get those big characters in the music industry these days, do you?
I don't know, and I would say that I don't know much about who's in the current top 20 anymore. I'll be perfectly honest about it. And I'm wary of sounding like an old fart that everything and everyone was so much more impressive in my day. But there was something unique about our decades and all the characters and the music that came out of it. You know, people like Madonna, you know, Michael Jackson, Boy George, who else? You know, fantastic bands like The Cure and New Order, and just everybody was different from everybody else.
Yeah.
To me now it all seems very homogenized and corporate.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not listening to the right people, I don't know. So I'm loath to comment detrimentally, but I don't find my ears pricking up to anything or anyone modern, you know.
So what about some of those other music acts from the 1980s? Do you still keep in touch with them? And who would your best friends from the 80s be today?
It's not a question of still keeping in touch with them. It's more a question of more recently becoming friends. Back when we were all young and thrusting and trying to get into the charts, we were all a bit sort of like suspicious of each other. You know, if you're at top of the pops, like, what's she wearing? You know. And hoping, you know, you wanted to get in the top 5, and you're just like, you know, if they were ahead of you, like, grr, and there was quite a lot of competitiveness. And but since I've been doing all the 80s tours, which I've been doing since 2001, can you believe I did my first tour with Kim Wilde and Go West and Paul Young in 2001? now we have all latterly become quite good pals. You know, I know Kim Wilde quite well. Good pals with Belinda Carlisle, Toya, Paul Young, Tony Hadley, Nick Kershaw's a very good friend of mine, and we've all gotten to know each other later. All that competitiveness has gone, and we just have a laugh and a glass of wine backstage, and I hope they feel the same way about me. But there's respect. We're all survivors, and like we've been through some terrible ordeal. But you know, it's a tough business, and we still keep going. Is what I'm trying to say. And we've all had these massive hits, and we're still playing collectively to big audiences.
So obviously you're looking forward to getting back out on the road and doing some live gigs again.
I am, and since Boris announced the kind of easing up of these awful lockdowns, gigs have been getting reconfirmed. They all got moved to potential postponed dates, and now those dates are being confirmed. So not so much over in Ireland, sadly. I think I'm coming to Belfast with Let's Rock. But if you want to go on the
good.
Yeah, if you go on the Tapau website, which is all the W's and then lowercase tpau.co.uk, no apostrophe, you'll see where I'm gigging. So, you know, if people are in the UK that want to come and see us, that'd be fantastic, you know. So
we'll be looking forward to that, but I'm sure it's been some time from you were last in Belfast.
Yes, it is. I was in Dublin the year before last doing a big festival over there, but I haven't been to Belfast for a little while. But when I used to come back in the day, we used to stay in the Europa, and there used to be a pillion box and barbed wire all around it. It's really exciting. I shouldn't say that because I know nobody wants to see that back again, but we like, ooh, you know.
Well, Carol, we look forward to seeing you when you come back to Belfast. The new Tapau single, Guess Who's Sorry Now, is out right now. So thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Bye.
I'm falling for you like the snow, trying to cover us over and soften the blow. I'm tongue-tied and twisted and so sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry for letting you go. What can I tell you that is dignified? If you won't let me help to dry the tears you cried,